Thank you for joining Member Solutions webinar on how to run the Ultimate Bullying Prevention Workshop. Our presenter today is Brett Lechtenberg. Brett has dedicated his life to educating people about personal security, protection, and anti-bullying. He's the owner of Personal Mastery Martial Arts and Family Success Centers and the author of the #1 best-selling book and video training program, the Anti-Bully Program. He's given countless lecture series, motivational speeches, and courses on anti-bullying, family protection, and safety. He's also the president of Total Success Business Solutions and Lechtenberg Training Systems, where he offers entrepreneurial coaching, systems development, and implementation for fellow martial arts business owners. Today, he's going to share his tips for running an effective and realistic bullying prevention program that meets the needs of schools, teachers, and parents. If you have any questions for Brett during the call, he's actually asked that you ask them at the time you have them, and we will actually try to stop the presentation and get to those as they come up. And then if you have any additional questions at the end of the call, we'll have a brief Q&A session as well. So thank you everyone for joining us, and Brett, over to you.
Thanks, Miranda. Thanks for having me on today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody who's listening. I appreciate your time, and I understand that your time is valuable. So I want to give everybody as much value as possible for being on the webinar. And I'm going to go pretty fast because we have kind of a limited time. And of course, I want people to ask questions and leave some time for questions at the end. So let's go ahead and get started. Since the vast majority of people on this call, I think, are martial arts instructors, who are interested in helping their local school system or community, I'm going to kind of talk from that perspective. I know I've invited some DARE officers and some school officials onto this webinar, and so if there are any other people like that, I think this will be pretty easy for them to kind of see the point of view that we're coming from. So I'm going to do 4 things. And it's important to remember these come from my opinion, but really my opinion is based on my research when writing my books, my conversations with school officials, parents, teaching anti-bullying for over 20 years to my students in my schools and other people's schools, and also comes from traveling the country and teaching at other people's facilities. And it's been a living, breathing work in progress to continually keep up with what happens, what changes in schools, and what happens and changes in the local communities. So what I'm telling you today is pretty evergreen, but things do change, and some people's perspectives and opinions are definitely shaped by what they see. So I'm not saying that everything I do is exact for whoever's listening, but it's a pretty big cross-section of information and things that I've put together. So I'm going to do 4 things. I'm going to explain a little bit about my program and the way I came about it. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to talk to teachers and principals, which is really important because I like to use my program in the local schools. It's also effective in daycare programs and that kind of thing. Then I'm going to talk about the necessary components of a anti-bully program from my perspective. And if you can use that, you can take those components and add them in or modify your own program. Or for people who just want my program, I'll tell them how to do that. And then I'm going to also talk about how to be the anti-bully expert in their area based on my experience and what I've done. So first off, before I go to the first slide, there's just a few things. My program is designed to go through 1st through 5th grade, and that's where I find that the best results come from anti-bullying, from an anti-bully program. Because if you can diminish the problems in grade school, there's much less problems in junior high and high school. So I teach in 2 40-minute segments. I don't do assemblies per se, where you bring in the whole school and talk to them for 30, 40 minutes. I don't do those kind of things because they're not very effective in my opinion. It's what I consider soundbite learning, and it is not good for actually fixing the problem. A little bit of rah-rah doesn't do much to keep people safe. I don't teach kindergarten as a rule If I do, instead of teaching two 40-minute sections, I'll teach four 20-minute sections. So just some ideas of how I go about this. When you're teaching your program, just kind of something for people to understand. When you're putting together an anti-bully program or you're teaching it, it's really understand that people understand the three facets of bullying. That's the bully's mentality and their desires. I teach a component on that. The second component is how to minimize the chance of being the target of a bully. And then the third part is how to properly and effectively deal with a bully if the situation arises, if you're in it. And then kind of the last thing, when you're working with kids, be sure that you don't just stand there and talk to them. It can be somewhat ineffective if you don't have a whiteboard and some things to put on there and kind of use that visual representation as well. So make sure that you are using that to help create what we call a logic chain between what you're teaching, what they see, and then the role playing that they do in class with you. So those things are really important. So let's kind of move on and talk about how to talk to principals and teachers. First thing to remember is they're really busy, and getting in to see a principal can be really difficult. Even with the reputation we've got and the fact that other principals in our school district will, call ahead for us and do introductions and do things for us, it's still really hard to get in to see a principal. So when you get in, make sure that you have a very short and professional presentation so it's going to directly fit the needs of the school, the teachers, and the principal. Too many times people I have found go in and they are very unprepared and they just kind of ramble about whatever they think somebody might need instead of actually doing some research. So really important. The components really need to be that you're going to offer a nonviolent resolution and skills to that effect. Too many times I think martial arts school owners go in and they think that they're going to teach some things on kicking and punching and things like that. And in my opinion, those pieces should not be in an anti-bully program initially, especially one that's in the school system. Anything that looks violent is going to get shot down right away. So don't do that. Second thing, provide tools for opening communication between teachers, parents, and children. Right now, the pendulum of public opinion has swung away from the teachers being the leaders, being the influencers, and too many times parents now actually blame teachers for things that are going wrong with their kids in school. And we need to swing that pendulum back so that teachers understand how much parents understand how much teachers and principals actually care and the skills that they have and what they're trying to do. And if you can prove to a principal or show them how your program does that, then they are much more likely to take your program in and champion your cause. Kind of the last thing on this is principals and teachers are very, very hesitant to have people come into the school. They're going to take up resources. Generally, the schools have very limited space. Everything's being maximized. And they don't have a lot of extra time because their curriculum is so full with the things that are mandated by the state and the government, etc. So you have to show them that you really only need some time, that you're fully self-sufficient, and that you fit into their character ed or their life skill program. Here they call it brain boosters or whatever the term is in your area. If you fit into those criteria, they'll schedule you into that time frame. And when they know that you don't really need anything other than an open space and a whiteboard, they're more likely to work with you and to give you a shot at showing what you can do. So that's some really important parts to talking with the principal. What they really want to know before they'll let you in is that you have expertise to teach a great program. So if you go in as the karate instructor versus going in as the anti-bully expert or the personal safety expert, it looks to them to be a little different, right? They want to know that you are the expert in your curriculum field. They understand curriculum and that you have an actual curriculum. And when you show up, if you don't have an actual curriculum to show them, you better be really, really good at explaining it in modular form in terms that they understand. That's just key. And the better you do that, the more likely they are to really give you a shot at what you're after, and that's to get in. They also want to know that you're an expert. If you have can prove expert authority in some way. So with me, I've got a #1 best-selling book. That helps, of course. But even if you don't have things like that, there are things that you can do, and I'm going to explain those a little bit about how to become the expert. But the more you can show that, the more they can find you on the internet, the more they can find you on Facebook, hear about you in the community, etc., the much more likely you are that they're going to go ahead and let you into their school. They're essentially endorsing, a principal or teacher is essentially endorsing someone when they come into their school, and they don't take that lightly, and they don't want to be embarrassed, especially a principal who is continually the final say with parents and can have several parent meetings a week, teachers meetings every week, other staff meeting with them every week. Their time is so taken up, and they are so busy and juggling so many balls in the air that it is super important to make sure that you're really going to be a big benefit to them and not a hindrance to them. If you can do that, then again, they're much more likely to take you in and give you a shot. And that's super important. Miranda, do we have any questions at this point so far?
Not yet, Brett.
Okay, I feel like I'm talking really fast. Did you have any input or questions that I can answer? Did anything come to your mind before we move on?
I guess, the only thing that comes to my mind is you talked about how important it is for them to be able to find you online or hear about you from the community. So, do you think your maybe online reviews, testimonials, things like that play a role in this?
Absolutely. The more of that stuff that you have, the better off that you are. And I'm going to explain in the last part how to do some of that and how to be seen a little bit better. But yeah, it is important whether you use books, special reports, newspaper clippings, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm blanking at the moment. Articles that you've written, blog posts that you've done, e-zine articles. There's a whole bunch of things that people can do to prove their authority, and also send those things and give them to teachers so they can check you out.
So, Brett, we did get a question while you were answering that one. And that is, what specific curricula are available? So what's maybe out there already that people could use for a curriculum?
Well, I have mine that I'll share with people how to get. And then there are, there's some other things that are out there, like I assume he's still doing it. Tom Patiri used to have what's called the Bully Guard program. And then, and I'm assuming, I haven't talked to Tom about this, so I assume it's still available. That was a good program. I know that Dave Kovar had a program available, and I don't know much about that program. I didn't actually look at Dave's stuff, but I believe he's still advocating this very hard. And anybody that knows Mr. Kovar, he is an outstanding person, instructor, and gentleman, so that's available. Bully Proof America, which I'm affiliated with, doesn't have well, I guess I'm sort of the endorsed curriculum, if you will. I wouldn't use that phrase necessarily, but putting together some great stuff there with book campaigns and other things that they're doing. That's Alex Changho. And I think if people are in the ATA, which I'm not a member, but I think there's an ATA program available that might be for sale as well. So,
Okay, great. Thank you.
sure. So let's go ahead and move on unless you got another question.
We're good for now. Thank you.
Perfect. A couple of hot buttons for principals and teachers. Tie your program to the current school rules and character education program. Every principal that I've met with had one of their first questions was, you know, our school rules or our school focus is ABC, right? And can you tie or does your program directly address these things? And of course it will. If it's a good curriculum, it's easy to implement, you know, whatever the school rules are, because they're usually 3 to 5 bullet points revolving around safety and compassion and or something along those lines. And so really easy, but that's something that people are going to be asked about when you talk to a principal or teacher. The other thing is principals are very upfront about fighting. And they think that, especially if you go in as a karate person, that you're going to teach kids about fighting. And it's very important to have in your curriculum a crystal clear portion about the difference between personal protection and protecting yourself from a bully, and the difference between that and fighting. And that's a very big component of my program, and should be a very big component of anybody's program that they put together. And then finally, improving communication skills between children, parents, and teachers. There's a lot of tension in some schools, especially where they've had some bullying issues. And if you can show how your program directly improves communication skills between those three groups, teachers and principals, again, are much, much more likely to go, okay, I'll give that a shot. That sounds good. So just important to understand that. So that's a really important things that should be built into an anti-bully program. Some of the other, there's really 3 main components. So if you're going to design your own program and you want to fit into the schools, what they're looking for, there's really 3 things, in my opinion, in my research, that are important. And the first part is, you know, you have to teach kids about the bully side, what bullies want, what they're after, what gives them their power. Right? You have to educate the kids and the teachers on all 3 of these components. The first one is the bully side. The second part is tools for diminishing the chance of being the target of a bully. Right? You can't stop bullying. They're never going to stop bullying, but if they understand they can diminish their chances, that's what they're looking for. And you got to have an actual skill set, actual toolbox for people to diminish that chance. And then the third part is, okay, I understand the bully part and I understand how to diminish it, but it's too late. I'm already the target of a bully. What can I do now? And how do I get help? How do I communicate with the teachers, with the principals effectively to get help? And then also the same tools of how to communicate, how to get the parents and the teachers to communicate with as little tension as possible. Because people get so emotional with their kids, and rightfully so, but that tension does not help in the communication process, and you have to be able to diminish that as much as possible with logic and show people how to actually do that. It's a very important skill, and again, that goes to swinging that pendulum back that we talked about earlier. So those are the 3 components of a bully program, of an anti-bully program. If you don't have those in there, I highly recommend that you look at what you're doing and add those components or make sure they're clear. If you don't know how to do that, again, I'll talk about that more at the end. So I guess before we talk about the anti-bully expert side of it, Miranda, do you have any questions about the components, or did anybody ask a question about that?
Yeah, so someone is actually asking if you can provide some detail on those components. So perhaps if we could go back to the previous slide. Uh, if
Step away for me to go back. Oh, there we go. Cool.
There we go. So I think they're looking for, could you maybe give a couple of examples for each of these so that people can maybe then evaluate if they have what they need in their program, or if they need to maybe do some further research or get input from another source?
Sure. So bullies are really hoping for three things, right? They want their targets to be scared, they want them to be confused, and they want them to be quiet. Right? That's one of the first parts I teach the kids. Because if a bully can make you scared enough and get you to believe a threat, let's say, then they know that you're going to be quiet and that you're going to be confused on what to do, because you can't tell anybody, because their threat is that they're going to make it worse and they're going to hurt you, or they're going to continue to bother you, whatever it is they're going to do. So that's what gives a bully his power, right? That's what makes them, I guess that's the easiest way to put it. That's what they're really after, right? And they're going to be able to keep bullying because of those three things. And if they don't have those three things, then they just can't bully someone, because people know what they're after, and now they can diffuse that situation. It's all part of creating tools around that specific component. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's really helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then if you're talking about tools for diminishing, diminishing the chance of being a bully, understanding what I call the confidence indicators, and how to properly use body posture, eye contact, tone of voice, and other things in a non-violent way, word choice, things like that. You actually bring things into spotlight, and it diminishes the chance of somebody being the target of a bully. And then making sure that people, if they are bullied, that they have some tools. They understand effective communication between teachers and themselves, or their parents and themselves, and teach people how to get their stress under control, teach them how to communicate in as few words as possible, and role play through these things with them during the anti-bully training. These go a long way, because when teachers and principals see you do those things, they instantly go, oh, that's really effective. Oh, I get that. I should say the open-minded teachers. I've definitely run into some that they don't understand conflict. They don't understand conflict resolution. They look at everything through the paradigm of college and teachers' school, and doesn't fit, right? But that's a different topic. So does that help?
Thank you. Yes, I see a thank you from the person who asked the question. So I think that's answered it. Thank you very much.
Perfect. So let's talk about how to be the anti-bully expert in your area kind of quickly. First off, I'd go through and create a group or a page on Facebook and promote the heck out of it. So I have a couple Utah Parents Against Bullying, which I started before I actually wrote and created the entire anti-bully program. Now I pretty much just promote my anti-bully program page. And I think it's just important because Facebook is so prevalent. There's really no huge anti-bully group that I've found in it that's really, really active. People join them because they believe in the cause, but it's just important that you're out there and you see it, and that you promote things through that and market that a little bit, so you get seen as that. It's just some basic social proof. Next thing would be to teach some free seminars in your academy. Now you can do them paid if you want, but my rule of thumb really is, if I do something in my school like this that's a community service, I do it for free. If I go somewhere else, I typically get paid for it, but everybody's mileage may vary. I know some people that do anything community service oriented, it's always free, and I know some people that no matter what they do, it's always for pay. Depends on your personal philosophy. I think they all work. I use a combination of free and paid stuff every month. So let your conscience be your guide, your moral compass, and it'll work out. It doesn't really matter which way you do it. As far as social media, if you're going to be on Facebook, Snapchat, LinkedIn, whatever you're going to do, you got to put out consistently good content for at least 12 months. That doesn't mean that it's going to take 12 months before you like get your first anti-bully program, but you got to build an entire log. You've got to build credibility through good content, and not, in my opinion, not everything should be, martial arts does this and martial arts does that. Of course, we're martial arts instructors, and we know that martial arts is a great complement to what's going on in the schools. But if you just always push from that angle, people, I think, will start to tune you out, except for the people that are specifically interested in martial arts. So I position a little bit of martial arts, a lot of personal, public, and family safety angles. So those are really the four avenues I come from. And that has worked pretty well for us and has been continued to keep us pretty busy. As far as community groups, there's a lot of things people don't get involved in because they say they're busy or whatever, but I just find that by using these things, my marketing budget drops to, I probably spend $500 a month total on marketing to keep a consistent flow of students through my school, but that's because I use these avenues. So things like Exchange Club, Rotary. If you have a police department that has honorary colonels, if you can get invited to that, anything like that, Kiwanis, church groups, there's a lot of things out there. So start hitting the pavement and actually make some videos, put out on social media. Hey, I want to speak. I want to talk. I've got this burning passion. I can help. When people hear that, then some people will just naturally reach out to you. You get a couple of those things going, get some pictures of you doing presentations, put them out online, do some check-ins through Facebook, etc. Excuse me. Then you'll start getting more of them. I was down at an honorary colonel's meeting not long before this, and I was engaged with the group, the chief of police, the captain who was doing the presentation, and they respect me for what I do. I respect them for what they do, and build each other's credibility. We have an awesome police force in this town. I think they're just incredible, and I think it's that way in most towns. Just people don't engage with them, and you got to go with the giving hand. Whatever you do, go with the giving hand. Be first. Do something that can make a change that you can. Obviously, you can give out, do for free if necessary, whatever the case may be, so that you can be seen as somebody who cares about their community, cares about their students, who cares about the schools, and be a giver. And giver's gain. That's kind of the B&I motto. So those are the ways, the easy ways, and then you can do things like writing articles, putting them up on eZine, putting them out on Medium. You can, people can put together their own special reports, books, videos, whether it's like whiteboard videos, man on videos, whether it could be even educational, where there's stage where you maybe even use your own students to show the things that you do. You're probably going to have a lot of trouble getting into a school and then videotaping that and then letting them letting you use that video. So I don't even go that route because I don't want to even stir that pot. But there's a lot of things that you can do to show the value of your curriculum if it's really good. And when people see that, they will come to you. And it's not going to be big at first, most likely, but it will grow. And we now work with the schools we go into, and as we're in there, we do the 2-day training, and we set it up so that they will do monthly anti-bully and leadership awards in the classroom with us, so that each month we're in the classroom and they're giving out awards for leadership in their classes and anti-bullying in each individual classroom, and then those kids get to come to us and train with us for free for a couple of months. We give them the uniform, the belt, there's no strings attached, nothing like that. And then we know that a certain percentage of those people will just love our program and they will sign up, and it makes it incredibly beneficial for us. It's incredibly beneficial for the school. And even if the kid, say, doesn't continue with our program after 2 months, they've got some substantial anti-bully training in the school. They've got some anti-bully and leadership training with us in our classes for 2 months. And then they've got some self-defense skills built on top of that for a couple months. So it makes for a very, very powerful program. So that's my recommendation for being the anti-bully expert in your area. And that's a lot of what I've got, Miranda. Do you have any questions coming in, or do you have any questions?
We do have a couple of questions here. And so the first one is, so you've talked a lot about sharing things socially, publicly, and for free. At any point, does it become a concern that by putting things on Facebook, you're giving your competitors the ability to actually take your information, kind of steal what you're doing and use it for themselves?
Give me 2 seconds. I need to handle something and I'll answer that.
Okay. And just so everyone knows, Brett is dealing with a medical situation with one of his children at home. So
I'm back. It's all good.
Okay.
Okay, so let's address that question. Could somebody steal your stuff? Absolutely. But you know what? My book has been out forever. A person could actually take that and write their own curriculum if they wanted to. It was written to be that. So it's a kind of a mentality. I'm willing to show pretty much anything that I do, but I'm first with it. And I know my stuff is exceptional. So somebody can try and copy it, but they're not going to be me. I'm going to have my unique slant on things, my unique perspective. And if they want to try and take it, you know, fine, take it. But you're not going to do it as good as me. That's my attitude. And I expect that some people are going to be scumballs, for lack of a better phrase, and try and steal it. And you know, more power to them. If they make a positive change in a child's life, go ahead. But guess what? When push comes to shove and they're looking for the real deal about who can do something, ultimately my name will come up in my area. That's what I believe. And I think that's the best way to approach it. Because if you worry too much about people stealing your stuff, you'll never put anything out there. Nobody's ever going to know how good you are. And I've seen that happen to people that were just exceptional, but they were so afraid of somebody stealing, they never put it out, and basically their program's their expertise, their specialty is going to die with them. And that's really unfortunate.
Yeah, thank you. Good advice. We have a couple more questions.
Sure. Fire away.
All right. How often should you run seminars in your school? So these free seminars that you've talked about.
Well, I don't know that there's I hate to be kind of wishy-washy, but I don't think there's a hard, fast answer. I think it depends on your objective. If you're just getting started, I would do them more frequently so that you build a reputation. And then it's going to get less frequent just because people are going to have come through. So I would start with once a month, maybe for October, November, December, do one a month. If you're getting a lot of calling for it, put in 2 a month. And then it might drop back a little. Again, if you're doing them in your school and you're out doing it in some of these other groups, you're going to actually be out doing it quite a bit. And it's going to be seen from different angles, different populations, different spheres of influence, and that's what's really important. So, sorry I can't give a hard, fast answer, but I'd say once a month plus your other public speaking, you're going to be out there a lot.
Right. Sounds like a good recommendation for the start. Thanks.
Sure.
Okay. Our next question is asking if you could again explain briefly how you have been able to tie an anti-bullying presentation to converting some of those people to students at your school.
Oh, sure. We get to school, when we go into the school, we ask that part of what we do to set up the program is say, look, in order for this program to be really effective, It needs to be reinforced. And this is what we recommend for reinforcement. Let us come into your classroom 2 to 3 minutes once a month and give out awards based on whatever the teacher in each individual classroom sets as the rules of leadership and anti-bullying in their individual class. And so the teachers have the autonomy to pick whatever they want, or they can form together as a school and make a monthly focus, monthly theme. And we usually get invited to a teacher's meeting and just kind of explain that to them and give them ideas and some other things. So, but that's it. We go into the classrooms, we're in each month, and we try and reinforce what's going on in the classroom, and then we make a little celebration for the kids, and then give them an award that's good for training at our school. And that's how we do it. And we know that when people come in that our program is, we're just confident that our program is that good that they'll want to come down and take advantage of their award, and that when they see it and do it, that they're going to stay. And we've done this for years, and it's worked great.
Okay, great.
Hope that answers the question thoroughly enough.
Yeah, no, that's great. I guess I have a follow-up question to that.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like you have to be pretty careful about the line you draw between being an anti-bullying expert and being a martial arts school owner. You know, maybe being careful about when you promote your school. Can you
Correct.
speak a little to that, like how you've been able to keep that separate as you're doing the programs, as you're talking to people at the schools?
Sure. So I never go into a school as the karate guy, the martial arts guy. I go in as the anti-bully personal safety instructor. That's my niche. So when I go in or try and set an appointment with a principal, go in and meet with a principal or teacher, whatever, that's the angle I'm coming in from. I don't show up in a martial arts uniform. I show up dressed nicely, business casual usually, because that's the way principals usually dressed. And then I talk to them purely from a safety and empowerment standpoint. Exactly what was at the beginning of this presentation: safety, empowerment, improving skills, curriculum-based, non-violent, non-aggressive, from that angle. And that sets me apart, because a lot of people will go in, and I'm not saying this is wrong, because some people, there's some very big... Okay, go on. Teresa, call the dog, please. Sorry, gang. I thought my wife was here to... I don't know why he's going crazy. Anyway. So anyway, that sets me apart. That is my unique niche. And I only speak from those points. Of course, they know I have a martial arts school. They know I have a fitness kickboxing franchise. They know I'm an author, etc. I don't hide anything, but I don't speak from that perspective. Does that make sense?
That does, and I think it's interesting even. So you would probably introduce yourself as, I'm Brett Lechtenberg. I'm, an expert in personal safety and anti-bullying. And, oh, by the way, I also own a martial arts school, and I wrote this book. And so you're kind of presenting a bigger picture to them.
Exactly.
Than just, yep. Great.
Exactly.
Well, thank you.
And I will say, though, that there are plenty of people who believe, and there's some very successful people in our industry that totally believe that, always be in your uniform, be proud of being a martial artist, etc. And I get that. That's just not my angle. And I know that some people have made that very successful. So again, whatever you want to be positioned as, that's how you can do it.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That appears to be all the questions we have for now.
Okay.
If there's any last minute ones, now's the time to get them in. Otherwise, we'll wrap up.
I'm just going to throw this out there for anybody that's interested. If they want my anti-bully curriculum, my program, they get a $100 discount for being on this webinar. Makes it under $200. They can just reach out to me on Facebook and just go to Brett Lechtenberg, send me a private message, and I will send them a link, and they get a copy of my book. They get all my classroom presentations, which is, the 2-day presentation, the 1-day refresher course for like the next year or later in the year. They also get the 4 weeks that they can either teach in their martial arts classroom or give to the schools to reinforce in the classroom. They get my special report that I wrote that helps bridge the gap in communication between parents and teachers and kids. They get all that. And then they get access to me in a private Facebook group that, I answer all their questions, anything I can do, plus the marketing of how to, as best they can, get into principals, teachers, whatever. So I teach them every step of the way what to do. And it's, it makes a great impact in the community. You get a great reputation. B, people will come to your martial arts school because of it if you do it right. And C, it ends up being great for your staff, for your school as a great business and profit generator. So for about the price they pay to market to get a student, it's about all it's going to be. They just need to get one student and more than pay for it.
Great, absolutely. Thanks for sharing.
That's my hard sell.
Well, we hope some people take advantage of that and find it very valuable, I'm sure.
So if anybody just has questions, they can reach out to me on Facebook. That's probably the easiest.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So actually, Brett, if you could go to the next slide with our contact information.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I thought that was the last one.
Oh, no problem. So there is your email to, I know you said you prefer Facebook, so everyone feel free to find Brett on Facebook.
Or email's fine too.
And to take advantage of his special offer if you can. I wanted to let everyone know that a recording of today's webinar will be emailed to everyone who registered, whether or not you were able to attend. I know a couple of people were a little later getting on and missed the beginning. You'll be able to watch that. And also, thank you everyone for joining. As I said earlier, we know that it is National Bullying Prevention Month, and so Member Solutions wanted to do this webinar in particular and have Brett on to give his best practices and tips on this topic. We also, on our Facebook page, Member Solutions Facebook page, that is, we're also sharing some resources and some just kind of fun items that you can share either with your members to help them and make a difference during this month when we're trying to raise awareness about bullying prevention. So thank you everyone for joining, and thank you so much, Brett, for being here with us today and your great presentation.
Well, thank you, Miranda. I appreciate the opportunity. I hope people found it valuable, and I look forward to speaking with you soon.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.